Welcome to my first ever Flicks of the Month video where we're going to go through all of the best titles coming to Prime Video, Max, Hulu, and more, which includes The Last of Us Season 2, Andor returns for Season 2. One of my favorite sci-fi flicks of all time actually hits Disney Plus in 4K this month, possibly Nicole Kidman's sexiest flick of all time, and a brand new Prime Video original series starring Kevin Bacon as a bounty hunter from hell. Even though I know Hulu is one of the less popular platforms, we're gonna start with Hulu because they just added Oddity.
Just open the door. I am telling you that there is someone in there with you.
This was one of the more interesting indie horror flicks released in 2024, and it was a hell of a year for indie horror flicks last year. Oddity has been hanging out over on Shudder. It's now available on Hulu, should reach a larger audience, and it's an interesting gothic horror flick. It's got a pretty peculiar setup and feels very unusual, but has a pretty grounded story I found completely compelling. I would say horror fans, this is going to be a must-watch for you, but even if that's not really your genre, it's not overly morbid or gory, so it's actually fairly accessible. They've also added Sexy Beast, a total hidden gem gangster flick. I'm a huge fan of the genre. It's one of my all-time favorite genres, and Sexy Beast is one of my all-time favorite hidden gems to recommend of any genre. Ben Kingsley actually won an Academy Award for his role in this movie, and he claims that he based this performance directly off of his grandmother.
No, not this fucking time, no fucking way, no fucking way, no fucking way, no fucking way, you made me look alright.
It's an intense movie with a surprising amount of charm and a heist plot that actually delivers. Now here's a more comprehensive list of everything Hulu is adding this month, as well as a bunch of Wes Anderson flicks they're adding on April 4th, actually some of his best movies.
Swamp leeches, everybody! Check for swamp leeches and pull them off. Nobody else got hit? I'm the only one with steel.
Later in the month, they're adding No Hard Feelings, a very funny movie starring Jennifer Lawrence.
I swear to God, he's my cousin. He's my second cousin.
I mean, it's a very irreverent comedy, but they don't make many movies like this anymore. It's a bit over the top, but I did think this movie was a lot of fun. Also on the 22nd, they're adding another one that is no fun at all. In a Violent Nature is a slasher flick with a slightly different take. The killer is the main character in this one, and you're basically following him the entire movie. This movie actually features no music, very little dialogue, and some pretty artsy cinematography for a slasher flick. It's a great option for fans of the original Halloween or It Follows, except again, this one's kind of the inverse of those movies, in an interesting way. Now you may notice Netflix is omitted from this video, and that's because I did a dedicated video listing out all the interesting stuff coming to Netflix. I actually make one of those every single month, and I typically do one for Prime Video, but this month I'm trying to pack even more into this list, including some Peacock picks. They've just added Casino, which, you know, if you love Goodfellas but wish it was longer, louder, and had even more gold chains, Casino's a great one. In all seriousness, though, Casino is a highly rewatchable movie, and for that matter, so is Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. It's a bit long-winded, but my goodness, that Daniel Day-Lewis performance is just so dynamite. It might not be his best performance, but Bill the Butcher is certainly my favorite performance of his. And apparently his method acting was so out of control on Gangs of New York that he refused to wear modern winter coats, got pneumonia, and then refused modern medicine. Yes, maybe all of that was unnecessary, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to argue with him after a performance like this.
Is that understood?
Here's a full list for Peacock. On a similar note to those other two, they're adding The Untouchables, just an absolute gem of a Prohibition-era gangster flick. It, too, is just highly rewatchable and is loaded with a bunch of quotable lines.
He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
But if you don't want to watch Jennifer Lawrence in a funny movie, then you might enjoy watching her in Darren Aronofsky's Mother. This is a wild movie. Deeply Christian people will probably find it beyond offensive, but I actually found it to be a pretty interesting, I'm not going to quite say clever, but a pretty interesting take on Christianity. But it's such a wild and intense watch. It's one of the least rewatchable movies I think I've ever seen. I mean, maybe it's in second place behind Darren Aronofsky's other film, Requiem for a Dream. And then finally, at the end of April, Peacock is adding a super underrated Guy Ritchie flick, Operation Fortune.
Would someone pinch me, please? Is that Danny Francesco? What's next for you?
I'm playing a mysterious self-made billionaire.
You just described me. Shadow me. Do whatever I do. Whatever I do.
It's far from his best. In fact, it hardly even feels like a Guy Ritchie movie. It does feel like a fun throwback spy movie, maybe most closely related to Guy Ritchie's The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which in my opinion also doesn't quite feel like a Guy Ritchie movie. I do have a point. He also did Aladdin and King Arthur, neither of which feel like Guy Ritchie. But I recommend Operation Fortune, even if you're not a fan of Jason Statham. Aubrey Plaza, Josh Hartnett, and Hugh Grant are all excellent and hilarious in this movie. If you've been wondering where I'm getting all these shirts that I wear in every episode, they're only available at my site, DarrenVanDam.com. I've got a bunch of designs over there. I designed these with my wife. We have a great time doing it, and the shirts are ridiculously soft. I love wearing them, and they're a fitted design, so they're just perfect for me, and it's also a way of identifying other fans of the channel out in the wild. Speaking of wild though, Max has got a hell of a lineup coming this month. Not a lot that they added on the first. I do highly recommend The Tree of Life. I think it's one of Terrence Malick's more accessible movies. Even though it's kind of a strange one, it's also just a beautiful film. They're also adding Severance. And no, this is not the hit Apple TV show. Wait! This is a horror comedy that came out well before it. You follow a group of folks out in a remote location on a business retreat where they begin to be picked off one at a time. It's got a bunch of funny commentary on this type of work environment, the same way the show Severance does, but with this one you get kind of a gory slasher flick. I will say the gore in Severance is all comical. This is a really silly movie that is fairly exciting too. Now on the 4th, they're adding Y2K. This just came out last year to mixed reviews, but it also stars Rachel Zegler, who's like basically destroyed her career faster than I think anyone in movie history. So it's possible that her being in the movie is a reason it's got mixed reviews. It is from writer-director Kyle Mooney, who I do think is one of the funnier, more recent SNL alumni, and his stuff's all kind of strange, so that's probably another reason for the mixed reviews, but I do like the general setup here, so I'm gonna check it out. The Last of Us returns for season 2 on April 13th, but season 2 is already going to be deviating from the games. If you didn't know, the show is based on a massively successful game series, but it's massively successful off of one game. The sequel garnered mixed reviews, so much so that that's probably why they're deviating in the second season. They're going to be introducing new characters. As a fan of the games, I'm interested to see what else they can bring to the table with season 2. And then just 1 week later, the funniest social experiment show to ever hit television returns for season 2 with The Rehearsal.
Everything that's happened today, I've rehearsed it.
Hey, hi, Nathan.
Dozens of times. In a replica of your home. This is what we can do for you.
You know, just off the top of my head, I would say, sure, let's go with it.
Now, if you ever saw Nathan For You on Comedy Central, the host of that show, Nathan Fielder, started a new one as a Max original last year, and it is wild. Without explaining too much, he basically gets people to rehearse a certain thing they need to do in their life. I mean, there's one great one where a guy wants to tell his best friend that he didn't really go to the college that he said he went to, and they go through the most painstaking steps to rehearse this stuff. It's absolutely hilarious and insanely clever. Just way more clever than Nathan For You was, and just as funny, making it one of the most interesting things coming to any platform in the month of April.
It was a huge mistake. You f***ed this all up. You're an awful person.
And by the way, the best movie I watched on Max last month was definitely Heretic, starring Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
I thought his performance was top-notch in this movie, and the writing felt particularly fresh. Fair warning, it gets pretty horrific, but horror fans should not pass this one up. Also, The Righteous Gemstones is currently airing on Max, probably the funniest ensemble cast of all time. I genuinely love everything Danny McBride creates, and the latter seasons of this show have, I think, been some of his best work. They also just wrapped up the first season of Common Side Effects, an incredibly interesting show that's actually an Adult Swim show, and it is funny, but it's also quite serious. It involves this new mushroom that has the power to like heal anything, and there's all sorts of interesting implications as to what different people would do with something like that, so I actually have a lot to say about it. If you want those thoughts, go over to DarrenVanDam.com and sign up for my free email newsletter. I send out one every Friday, and it typically involves reviews of things I'm not talking about here on the channel. Subscribers already know my thoughts on movies like Nosferatu, Mickey 17, and this week's email will also include a review of Last Stop in Yuma County. And then to wrap up the Max portion of the list, Nicole Kidman's latest flick, Baby Girl, comes to the platform. This is another one I haven't seen yet, but I love all the characters she does. Almost every movie and project she does has something that I find interesting. In this one, she plays like a high-powered career woman who starts an affair with a younger man, and there appears to be some dominant, rough sex involved in this movie. I'll definitely be watching it.
Good girl.
Now on Disney this month, they're currently releasing episodes for David Blaine's latest project. David Blaine Do Not Attempt is kind of a travel show where he's going around the world learning about different feats people are performing, and I've got fond memories of watching like the early David Blaine stuff on television. It was just mind-blowing, and I've followed everything the guy has done since. I did, however, make the mistake of putting this on for the whole family, and I mean, 15 minutes into the first episode, we had to bail. It's just way too intense for my kids, but I'm hoping I find the time to watch this show on my own time, because I'm just a fan of the wild stuff this man does. And then on the 11th, The Abyss is coming to Disney Plus in 4K. This is just an absolute stunner of a movie. The remastered 4K version holds up. I've seen it. It's incredible looking on screen. Try to find a movie that came out in 1989 or earlier that looks as good as The Abyss. It's incredible. Not only is it a visual stunner, but it is a harrowing story that keeps you glued to your seat for a solid 2.5 hours. Speaking of the family, I did show this one to my kids. It's way less intense than you probably remember. In fact, when the credits rolled, my daughter said, "This is the most amazing movie I've ever seen." And then on the 23rd, Andor returns for a 3-episode premiere. If you've checked out of the Star Wars stuff like I have, apparently Andor is like the greatest thing to come to Star Wars since the original Star Wars. Andor actually covers the 5 years leading up to the events of Rogue One, easily the best Star Wars movie since Disney took over. While the movies and all of the spin-off series have really relied heavily on not just CGI, but those digital wall backgrounds you've heard so much about, Andor has gone for live practical sets and has a much bigger production value, and it has been embraced by fans more than I think any other property to come out since Disney took over. So I'm actually interested in maybe revisiting this, even though I checked out of the Star Wars stuff a while ago. Now Prime has gotten kind of cagey with their new releases. They're not releasing the list of all the stuff they're adding anymore. Maybe they're getting tired of creators like me informing you as to what's going on there, but I can tell you from experience, they're not adding much lately. They did recently add some killer flicks I love recommending, like Kill the Irishman. They've got Dunkirk now. Some titles that are not as rewatchable as I had hoped include Two Guns with Mark Wahlberg and Denzel, a fun watch.
All right, on the count of 3, we'll let each other go. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Now you're making me not be able to trust you.
And 12 Strong, starring Chris Hemsworth, is a solid initial watch if you've never seen it, but I just cannot help but to compare most modern warfare flicks to Black Hawk Down. They also recently added Twisters and Ford vs. Ferrari, and I'd consider rewatching both of those again soon. Or for followers who enjoy my weird recommendations, Welcome to Wellville is a real weird one. If you've ever heard that cornflakes were invented to stop men from masturbating, not only is that a true story, but Anthony Hopkins plays Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, the inventor of cornflakes in this movie, but it's about a lot more than that. He was a health nut in the truest sense of the word and ran a bizarre health spa.
Take Mr. Lightbody immediately to the yogurt room and give him 15 gallons.
Oh, no, I can't eat 15 gallons of yogurt.
It's not going in that end.
This features an interesting cast for a movie you've probably never heard of, including Bridget Fonda, Matthew Broderick, John Cusack, even Dana Carvey has a role in this movie. I'm not necessarily recommending this one. In fact, my brief review here will be more than enough for some of you, so let's move on. They're adding Clint Eastwood's most dangerous movie ever made. In fact, a man died while filming this, unfortunately, because the Iger sanction features a lot of real mountain climbing, difficult mountain climbing, and Clint Eastwood did most of his own stunts for this movie. And he plays an art professor / assassin mountain climber in kind of a James Bondy type spy movie that is laced with, again, real rock climbing. And then before giving you the recap of all those lists, Prime Video just added a brand new series titled The Bondsman. And it looks kind of awesome. Kevin Bacon plays a bail bondsman or a bounty hunter who is killed and then resurrected by Satan in order to be a bounty hunter for hell. Apparently it's going to be pretty gory. It looks like a lot of fun. And, Kevin Bacon, he doesn't always pick bangers, but he often picks interesting projects to work on, and this looks like it might be one. Here's a quick recap of all those lists we just discussed. These lists are also down in the top pinned comment if you prefer to read them that way. Just pause the screen if you need more time. And don't forget to always like, comment, and subscribe to your favorite YouTubers so we keep making stuff you love. But I'll keep making these lists as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this first Flicks of the Month list, and you will see me on the next one, if there is a next one.